später geht's los, okay?
Jo.
Geklickt. Hello everyone, welcome to NannuoLive, to a special edition of NannuoLive. Before Sigi and myself get started, maybe give us a feedback about the audio and the video. There is also, Sigi, anyway, some delay, so all the messages will come a little bit later, but I would say let's get started. Good afternoon, Sigi.
Good afternoon, Gabriele. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing well, all things considered, I would say. And Sigi, we had just discussed yesterday about doing this last minute video today that is not so much about tea, it's more about the war and what is happening to our neighbors. And I see that some comments arrives from the US. Eric is writing that audio and video are pretty good. So thank you, Eric, for the feedback. And nonetheless, we are certainly going to drink some tea also today, right, Sigi?
Of course.
All right, yeah. And maybe before sharing to me, because actually I don't know, and you sharing to me and to all of you what is in your pot and me sharing what I have in here, I would like to ask everyone if you could share in the chat when you wake up in the morning in these days and you're still in bed and maybe you just grasp your phone and check the latest news. What is where are your thoughts going? So what is that that worries you most? There are different aspects to what is happening now in the world. So I would like to a little bit get the feeling of what are your concern or to whom your first thoughts in the morning are directed. And while we hopefully collect some messages in the chat from you, Sigi, what you have prepared for today?
I can show it off a bit. So I recently ordered some tea from a collector in Taiwan that is focused on Hong Kong stored pu'er teas. And one of the ones I ordered is a tuo from the 90s made by Zhongcha. I don't know much more than that, unfortunately, but here I can kind of show off what it looks like. One thing I've been doing with these older teas is that I break them up and I store them in these smaller tins.
Is that actually, you say, the shu or a sheng?
That's a sheng.
A sheng, okay. And Agatha just joined. Hello, Agatha, from Poland, so neighboring country to Ukraine. And well, there are some similarities, Sigi, between your tea and mine. I have actually shu pu'er, but also from the 90s, actually.
Oh, nice.
It is, and it will be the first time that I will drink a huampian, a shu huampian. Like I've drunk many shampoo or huampian, but it's the first time that I'm actually having a shu.
That does sound pretty interesting.
It's the last sample I'm tasting from a series of samples that I just received from China and that have been pre-selected. I try to show that to the camera. Definitely you can tell that is a huampian, very large leaves. I'm not sure if the quality is good enough of the camera, but it comes in 250 gram square that are very loosely pressed actually and put one square on top of each other. Yeah, let's see how it is.
Yeah.
Quite some large pieces. Let me switch back to the chat here.
If it's been made in the 90s, I wonder if it still has that older processing method for shu.
Yeah. And So I see that more people are joining. We have Claudio, we have Jon, Ya, Teeki, or sorry, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sorry about that. That's good. I think I will start doing a tea first, and then yeah, we also start sharing what is well, what is this streaming about. Everyone knows, of course, but what maybe if you are follower of Nannuoshan, what you might have noticed so far is that we rarely, in I would say Sigi, maybe never actually speak about anything else than tea, pretty much. And shall I do this? Oh, it's quite big, but actually it's not that heavy. But just in the past day, I thought that for exceptional situation, we should make exceptions. And so I thought taking a clear position about what is happening, not only for myself, but also as owner of Nannuoshan and for Nannuoshan. Also starting taking also some measures on our side. It is Savannah. Okay, all right. Hi, Savannah, and also discussing together what we all can do to improve the situation, to avoid making it worse. And I think a good tea certainly would not harm.
Yeah, at least to keep calm during
Right, yeah.
all of it.
That's for sure. Yeah, Sigi, how have you experienced, how you have lived actually the past 10 days?
Um, to be completely honest, to some extent, I think I've been practicing a bit of denial. I haven't been actively trying to follow things as much as I maybe should have. In part because I had just finished my exams and I've been a bit tired from that. So
Yeah,
the
as a
timing is all a bit
student.
unfortunate for me, but it's to some extent I also feel like the situation as a whole is just so complicated that it's difficult to really fully make up one's mind about it. Obviously, like, war is bad and Russia shouldn't invade. I think that much is all clear. But there are so many nuances and so many things that we as just regular people can't really know that makes it all very, very difficult.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, and I question who knows it, right? Like,
Yeah.
certainly I know less than high-level politicians around the world, but on the other side, who can really predict what is going to happen next, right? I think that everyone have to do a certain level of speculation and conjectures to try to understand what could happen. But just until short ago, no one was even ever thinking about that such an invasion could happen. And well, here we are. I'm all in all usually a positive person, I would say, but certainly in these days, I don't think I am. I have to say.
Understandably
So
so.
I'm concerned. And on one side, as for me, when I get up in the morning, the first thing I think is I'm checking the news to see if the situation have escalated even more. I think this is one of my first concern in the morning. Like, see, okay, what happened overnight, and then on the other side, of course, following the exodus, if you want, of all the refugees. We are now at more than 1.5 million. It's massive, right? It's like a big city that in 10 days have evacuated completely from Ukraine.
Yeah. On that note, a good friend of mine, actually, he is American, but he lived in Kharkiv. And I've kind of been following his evacuation.
Yeah.
Luckily his girlfriend and his girlfriend's family were all able to flee to Moldova, and
Okay.
now they're planning to return to the US.
Yeah, and it 1.5 million is a lot of people, but it's still just 2% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
So 2, maybe 3%. So the vast majority, and not only fighters, I mean also children and women are still in the country. Personally speaking, I have also some connection to both, actually, to both Ukraine and Russia, and maybe that's also why, on some extent, I feel a little bit closer to what is happening. But nonetheless, I have to say that despite all the sadness that you have in the morning when you read the news and you check, like we are just reading today, that they are not even able to agree on a ceasefire for a couple of hours just to evacuate a city that is completely under bombardment. And
Mm-hmm.
what really concerned me personally more or most is really the risk of escalations. And it's something that when I got up, when it was 4 days ago maybe, got up in the morning 6 a.m., the first thing I read is that Russia attacked the largest nuclear plant in Europe, and I thought,
Yeah.
here we are. I mean, is I don't know, it's
Yeah, that one especially was quite unsettling. I like the obviously the loss of civilian lives, and just the thought that they don't even like care enough about the civilians themselves, or about not hurting the civilians, that are not willing to agree to that ceasefire, like you mentioned,
Mhm.
um, is it's I don't know, I can't really find the right words to express how that feels.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I was really shocked, and I will tell more about that in a minute. There is Maria asking from Romania or Moldova. I'm not sure which of the two. She said that she's asking if we have started receiving refugees and how is the situation here. So I'm actually better aware of the situation in Germany than in Switzerland. Probably also because I don't think there is yet a lot of refugees coming to Switzerland, but certainly there is a lot coming to Germany. In Berlin, there is a train every hour with hundreds of Ukrainian friends that are arriving at the main station. So there are many ways actually also to help. They don't need, by the way, they don't need more volunteers. At the moment, they have enough volunteers. But if you are in Berlin, you can just go to the main station and give donation to the people that arrive. That's something that other person are have been doing. And yeah, I also encourage you to check also in your cities if there is any convoy or buses or trains arriving with refugees. And there is also a series of websites that help to coordinate support. I put a series of links in the description below if you would like to have a look. But basically, there are websites where you can offer your home if you have possibility and space to host refugees. There are other websites also where you can just post what you have available. It can be food, it can be clothes, it can be medicines, and then refugee can just log in as well and search for offers and contact you in case maybe they need a certain medicine, for example. So you find all in the description below.
Mhm. And one thing we talked about in this context yesterday, or at least something that I mentioned, was that it that there is no real way to like sort of take personal responsibility in the situation and do something of your own accord that will like actively make the war end. But one area where we can focus our sort of personal impetus is in helping the people that were afflicted by the war. So, like Gabriel said, if you live in Berlin or nearby, please, if you can offer space to house these refugees, strongly consider it. If there is anything you can give them, any kind of support, please consider it. These are, after all humans, and they all need to be accommodated in such a situation. And if we're able to provide that accommodation, then I think we absolutely should.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, yeah. And I think we have also to say we are at the very beginning, so we don't know exactly how many people will come over the next days. I'm sure the different states will get more and more organized. So let's do whatever we can. Just keep us updated, and I think each of us can do something, right? It's just within our possibilities.
Yeah, it's
Do whatever we can. Yeah, check out those links below, and maybe what I would like to do is well, first of all, I have to put a look from time to time about in the chat. It's there is Savannah saying that she feels that many people here are open to receiving Ukraine refugee, much more so than any other refugee. I'm pretty sure that's the case, and
unfortunately so.
it's I have been traveling in Ukraine a few times, both for work and for leisure. And in these days, I was just rewatching a little bit the photos that I took at that time. It was quite some time ago, and so I thought I'm going to share some of those photos with you. And of course, I was in those places, and for me, it's a bit more maybe emotional than for you watching, but nonetheless, I thought is good sharing and telling you a little bit of the story behind. Let's see if that works. Actually, I'm gonna try it right now. So what? Let me see. Yeah, what you see here, this is this was for work. This is Kiev, and in the center with the white hair is Volodya. Volodya Baturkin is an aerospace engineer and scientist that we were cooperating at that time for building a satellite together. So together with the Ukrainian university. And the other two persons to the left are just colleagues of mine. At the time I was working at the German Aerospace Center. And what you see here, this is the university. Maybe not that building, but who knows? One of the building at the university have been also bombarded just in recent day. And here we are actually inside the university. We are again with Volodya and with his wife to the right. And they had a small garden in the backyard with some cucumbers that you see in the center on the table. And maybe you can recognize that, but on the wall, just opposite to you, you see to the right, actually that's a picture of Berlin, is Gendarmenmarkt in Berlin. And in the center, that thing in green and underneath in brown, I think they're both pictures of Mars, actually. And this is Volodya again in a museum at the university. They had quite a lot of material in there, and this is really a capsule that came back from space. And so my thought went actually to Volodya, and I tried to get in touch with him and with some common friends, because I haven't spoken to him for a while. This was 10 years ago. And I found out that he's actually right now in northern Germany. So he's already retired and managed to get a contract at the German Aerospace Center. So let's say, he's no more in Kiev. And let's see if I have any other picture. Yeah, I thought that this picture because in Kiev there are a lot of hills, so the subway is very, very deep underground, and this is where actually people are protecting themselves nowadays. So these they go 100 meters downwards, and they stay there, and there are people that have been living there for more than a week now. And this is the view of the river in Kiev, from the terrace of the opera house in Kiev. This last picture is difficult to spot it at the first glance, but besides this reconstructed downtown here, what you see in the very top right corner is the television tower that actually was bombarded just a few days ago. Yeah, so I thought, sharing a little bit these pictures to you. Kiev is really a wonderful city. It has already been reconstructed once after the First World War, I think. Yeah, and let's see how it will go. I said I personally am not very optimistic indeed. And what concerns me most is that, I mean, there is this hope that by the Western country giving arms and even planes to Ukraine, they will be able to hold and fight back. And I thought it was really a, how can I say, a brave move, isn't it, Ziggy, from the Western country to provide arms. I thought they wouldn't decide so quickly for such a move because it could be easily be interpreted as a way of attacking back from our side, right?
Yeah, it. I was also kind of surprised that that kind of aid was given so quickly because, to be completely honest, I was a bit cynical with regards to whether they would actually do much of anything, except of course like basic sanctions and that kind of stuff, because that's kind of what they always do, and it feels like that in most cases is sort of the only thing that's ever done, which I personally don't see as like fully sufficient in a case like this. So seeing that they're going a bit further with their support is definitely a good thing.
And it is a difficult balance, right? Because on one side you want to react back, and on the other side you don't want to react too heavily, because if a war starts between Europe, America, NATO, and Russia, that's a different story, right? And we don't want to go there. And for example, you've seen that now there was Ukraine asking for a no-flight zone, and Europe and the US said, no, we're not going to do that. And just right after, Putin said, well, if you're going to do that, that's like a declaration of war. So it's a very, of course, we don't know all the details of those discussions, but it's very borderline. And on one side, we would like to be strong and really, react and jump and help. But on the other side, we have also to be aware, I think, that if our reaction is too heavy, the Third World War may start. And we have read a little bit about that. I thought I would hear more, honestly. So about the risk, I've read a little bit about that, but to me, that's what I think actually when I really get up in the morning. I ask myself, let's look at the news and let's see if tomorrow the Third World War starts. Maria is asking about the sanctions. Do you think to stop drinking and buying Russian product, including tea? Yeah, that's a good question. And I mean, if I can answer for myself and actually for Nannuoshan as well, and the answer is yes, we have already done that. So if you go, actually, not many people notice that, but if you go on the Nannuoshan website, there is a slide show on the homepage with just photos swiping by every few seconds. And there is a map of the war where we write that we ship to every place in the world. But if you really look carefully at that map, there is no Russia. So we have, as of 3 days ago, we have stopped selling tea to Russia, and not only to Russia, but also to what is called forwarding centers. So basically, you have to know that Russian like to buy European products and American products, but they don't like so much to buy directly, because if they are a little bit afraid that if they make a shipment directly, let's say from the EU to Russia, from the US, then that got they have problem with the customs and so on. So what they do, they work with so-called forwarding centers. There are those also in Germany. So basically, you see that there is a customer that is clearly from Russia with a delivery address in Germany, and is a forwarding center. This forwarding center receive the parcel, maybe together with other. They pack everything together, and somehow they get it over to Russia. So we have stopped selling tea to Russia, and we've stopped selling tea to forwarding centers unless the customer contact us and we make sure that it's not in Russia. And Sigi, I have to say, I am close also to the Russian people. This is not something really that I do something against the Russian people. I've been traveling in Russia many times, and I've learned Russia for many years. So I'm not so good as in the other languages, but you know, I can, especially if I take a few days, let's say, to refresh it, I can kind of go around, yeah, with Russian. And I was really close to the culture. And for me, this is like, how can I say? I mean, we have to stop Putin, right? That's the problem. That's clear to everyone. And the question is how to stop him. I have to say I'm not very optimistic. I don't know you, Sigi. I'm not optimistic that after 22 years or 21 years. Oh, I have already tea here. Forgotten brew.
Yep.
After 21 years in power, it will be so easy really to get rid of Putin. But
Yeah.
you know, somehow we have to try at least, right? And I think we have to try in multiple ways. And one possibility that I see is that he dies tomorrow. But you know, many people get sick at this war. Unfortunately, Putin not yet. And another possibility is that the whole Russia insur against him. And I don't know if he would be able to keep the whole Russia under control, under martial law, let's say, to avoid insurrection and losing his power. But I've seen in the past that he already had some time troubles with trust from the people. And if we show to the Russians somehow that the rest of the world, at least the Western world, is trying to isolate them because it's not agreeing with what they're doing, maybe, I said I'm not very optimistic, but maybe we have some chances of them also arguing against their lead that that's not what they want to do.
Yeah, it's what did I want to say? It's tough. I mean, like, from what I've heard, both in the context of this and in prior situations, like, he is not afraid to make like massive amounts of arrests. I think I heard a couple of days ago that there have already been like more than 5,000 people arrested that were protesting against the war in Russia. And I recall other past events where even more people were arrested all at once.
Yeah.
So it really would take like an uprising of the size that the police and domestic military force there can't really deal with. And kind of given the past history, that also has me a bit like afraid and concerned, because he is probably willing to use let's say destructive force against his own people, even at a larger scale, if it means that he can stay in power.
Yeah, and I see in the chat there is Yon, for example, saying that there are 140 million people in Russia and they cannot not arrest them all. I see the point, but look, for example, what is happening in China, right? Where it is even more extreme. In China, there are not 140 million, there is 1 billion people.
Yeah.
And if we go back and we look what happened in China in the 60s with, was the 60s, end of the 50s, beginning of 60s, I think, with the Great Leap Forward. What happened in China in the 60s and the 70s with the Cultural Revolution, they were, of course, not happy about the situation. They were starving to death, but there was no mass rebellion against the state, right? So I wouldn't be so sure that it's that easy for a country to say 140 million people, let's go out on the street, no one can stop you, is less easy than it sounds. And yeah, but I think on our side, as for me personally, and also for Nannuoshan, I don't know if it will help. I think everyone has to do his own part, small and large, and we will just keep on boycotting Russia and avoiding buying product from Russia. Now is anyway no more possible at the moment, but the easiest and cheapest way from Europe to fly to China is taking Aeroflot via Moscow. There's also an option to go to Turkey, but that's an option I've taken many times, and even if Aeroflot would start again operating, I would not go that way. I just avoid it, and as I said, it's sad because certainly many people in Russia are aware of the situation, but I think we have to show a unified, we have to give a unified message, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's also part of why I said like we as individuals can't stop the war from happening, but that's why we should focus our personal efforts towards helping people rather than trying to somehow end the war. Obviously, like businesses are a little different. You can, of course, like refuse service to people there and kind of cut them off that way and send a message that way. But people who are not, or who don't own businesses, people who aren't able to do some kind of trade with Russia, for us, I think the best we can do really is making sure that the people that flee Ukraine and the people that still have to remain in Ukraine get as much like aid and support as they can.
Yeah. Sorry, boiling water here. Let me check if there is any comments. Yeah, people speak about how media are controlled in Russia and how is it difficult to know the truth. And so I would like to share with you, before speaking also about nuclear, because this is a topic where I really would like to share my opinion. And since now we are quite open about opinions at Nannuoshan apparently, and an experience. I would like to share with you also a few more pictures of some traveling. Both in the Ukraine. Actually, one time I traveled by train from Switzerland to Ukraine, actually to Kiev, and then from Kiev I took a plane to Russia and continued the trip in Russia. So I have a few pictures to show you and share. Let me see. Yeah, this picture, well, you recognize me to the right with my ex-girlfriend from that time. And to the left, they were two girls living in Ivano-Frankivsk, which they were saying they were saying Ivano-Frankivsk is the end of the world, they were saying. So if you look at the Russian map, Ivano-Frankivsk is well, Lviv or Lvov, depending how you pronounce it, is in the southwest of Ukraine. And if you go farther south, just straight towards Romania, there is Ivano-Frankivsk, and they say it's the end of the war because I mean the city was a little bit sad, let's say, and it seems like there is nothing after it. But indeed, there is something after it, and it is beautiful mountains. We went hosted here, really here, where you see this picture was taken just from the house, on top of the Carpathian Mountain. There are Carpathian Mountain also in Ukraine at the very border with Romania, in a beautiful beautiful landscape, and it was really, you know, emotional thinking back at that time, because I don't think that, and I'm no more in contact with this person, but I don't think that they will, if they're still there, that is that easy for them to leave, although they are very close to the border. And I think that Russia will get there. Now they are still on the coast, but it's just a matter of time. There's coming Odessa and then all the rest. And yeah, it just makes me sad thinking at the time I was there, how the people had nothing. They were living really, I'm not poverty, but you know, they didn't really have much, and they were anyway so kind and welcoming.
Yeah, it uh it's often the case where like if you yourself are someone who has experienced that kind of situation, be it real poverty or just kind of scraping by, it I think it gives you a feeling of like not wanting to have that happen to other people, and it makes you understand the situation a bit better, and helps you be more generous and more kind to other people.
No, that's for sure, yeah. And in these days, Sigi, I've heard a lot about measures against the oligarchs and the Putin's friends, let's say, just to give a message to them, and with the hope they will stop supporting Putin's policy. But on the other side, I thought, you know, as was mentioned in the chat, 140 million people, and the oligarchs are just a few. Of course, they are the most powerful. But well, let me share a couple of more pictures, and then I tell you one more experience I would like to share with you. Let's see where it was. Yeah, this was during another trip. I was actually staying for a few weeks in St. Petersburg, the place actually where Putin come from, the city where Putin come from, and I was staying here by some friends, and was taking a Russian course in the city. And what I've experienced, you know, is a little bit these what I call kind of middle class in Russia, right? And the middle class in Russia, they are not rich by any means. What I remember was really these tiny spaces in the kitchen, like actually you have seen in this picture here. We were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 7th person taking the photo. And I remember there were a few more coming. There were no more space. People, we were actually at dinner there, but there was not enough space around the table. So everyone was just holding his plate. And it's, they say they are not rich, but they are, you know, middle class. Like they are people they are young people that go to university. They can speak good English. They know, as it was mentioned before about misinformation, they know how to activate a VPN and read the BBC News even if they are blocked. It's not, you know, it's not that difficult. You can do that in China as well if you want. And nowadays everything is blocked. Even this video actually is blocked in Russia because they just blocked YouTube. But those guys knows how to activate a VPN and watching a video. And nonetheless, I think I have one more photo. Let's see. Oh yeah, this was basically, you see the whole kitchen here. It was just a corner table. And that's how they spent actually the was Saturday evening, just meeting at friends. Everyone was bringing some food, and they were cooking together in this tiny kitchen. And what I was surprised in discussing with them, and I say this was a few years ago, but the situation wasn't that different as of today, is that these guys, yeah, were, I'm not necessarily those in the pictures, but were not necessarily against Putin. And this was what a little bit shocked me at that time and shocked me even more today, because I thought, you have access, you speak English, you have access to all that information that you want because they had VPN. But nonetheless, in a way, they had this attitude that was a little bit like, well, you know, Putin is not a good man, but it does good things for Russia. Like they see like Putin as a strong man doing both his own interest and also Russia's interest. And and I said, I know that many people are not like that. We have seen now there is an exodus at the border with Finland, with Russian just flowing into Europe because they want to leave the country. And nonetheless, there are also a large middle class, I would say, that is not necessarily completely against the regime. And I think these are these are the people that buy tea from Nannuoshan, not the oligarchs for sure. It's and I think we have to try to give a signal to them. Yeah.
Mhm. It, yeah, it's kind of a tough situation to be in because ultimately, I think when it comes to sort of general, maybe not even necessarily approval, but acceptance of the political situation in a country, the biggest determinant is just uh, personal well-being, in essence. And if like your regular middle class person lives an all right and reasonable life, and maybe if they're a bit older and they've lived through other phases the country has gone through, and they feel that it's doing better nowadays. Because funny enough, that's something I, for example, notice with my grandfather sometimes. So my family is also from Romania
Mhm.
originally, and my grandfather was sometimes like, "Oh, things were so much better under the previous regime. I had this and this and that," and
And you know that the amazing thing is that you heard this from people that have really experienced and that time, you know, the Soviet era and so on, and also from people that have not experienced that are younger.
yeah,
So that's what what I
yeah,
struggle
that's
with.
uh, I think that's like a really interesting phenomenon because like ultimately all of these kinds of like expansionist policies, this sort of great man narrative that Putin is also trying to construct, is in essence one of the core tenets of uh, and I mean, this is going to sound weird at first because if you think about like fascist leaders, you probably don't think about Putin, right? But the sort of ideological tools that he is using are the exact same as those, because they are constructing a sort of grand narrative about how the country was amazing in the past,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
he is going to be like the strong
Or
man that
again.
returns Russia to its like to the greatness it deserves and to its sort of leading position in the world. And um, that narrative, even though like obviously it's entirely built on falsehoods, is still very appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah, indeed, it is, and it's dangerous, right? So on one side, we have to do our best, whatever we can, to support the refugees, and because at the end are the people that really are suffering right now. And on the other side, I think we have to do whatever we can to limit the wars, because
Yep.
these could be, just the start, or it's just an evolution. And Putin has spent his whole career just keeping a status of unbalance, let's say, and doing war to neighbor countries. And this is just, the next level. Every time it goes one step up. He tried it with Crimea. It worked through without not so much issues. Now he sees maybe a good opportunities to just go over with all Ukraine. Yeah, because he doesn't want to have Ukraine too close to the EU or the NATO. And what is coming next? So when I got up on that morning and I read in the news that we had an attack to a nuclear plant, I was really scared. And Sigi, you are much younger than I, so I think you were still you were not yet born when there was Chernobyl, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was, and well, if you want to do the math, I was 5.5. And I remember that time because I was still in kindergarten, but I was not yet able to, I was no more able to go to kindergarten for a while. We had to buy bottled water and we couldn't drink water from the tub. And I mean, I was down in Italy and Chernobyl is in the very north of Ukraine. When I read that a nuclear plant that is on one side much closer to me, yeah, and to the center of Europe, and it is the largest one in Europe, it is 6 times larger than Chernobyl, was hit by a rocket, actually, I thought, here we are. Because what I asked myself, I don't know if, yeah, probably someone of you also asked it yourself, what would have happened if that missile wouldn't have hit a building next to the reactor, but would have hit the reactor's building? Because as you probably really realize, if you didn't know before, I build rockets. Now I don't build rockets for the army. I build rockets to go to space. But the technology is pretty similar actually. And I tell you, it's not that easy to control a rocket. So it's especially when you are in a war situation in a country that you don't know, missing by 20 meters and hitting the building next to it, it's something that really can happen all the time. And in war happen all the time. So we were very, very close to, in my view, to a very bad situation in which they wouldn't have hit the training building, they would have hit the reactor building, and there would be now a second Chernobyl, just 6 times larger. And then my question would not be so much about the radiation, would be how would Europe react? Because, for example, I would ask myself, would then Europe say, okay, now we impose a no-fly zone? So this could have been, the drop of water that would have resulted in, everything out of the, everything flowing out. Because if we do the wrong move and the Third World War starts, it will be a nuclear war. And then it's not so much of a problem if a nuclear plant is just in fire. The problem there is that nuclear bombs will just arrive to us. And what concerned me most is that at the very end, Russia is extremely powerful. So even if we help them, you see, Maria, she was born in Chernobyl. In Chernobyl here, okay, 86. So it's kind of, it's like we were that morning, that night, we were so close actually to cause, to went into Third World War. And maybe no one thinks so much about it at the moment, but that could happen tomorrow, right? If Putin gets up and he gets the feeling he cannot get Ukraine because the rest of the world is supporting too much Ukraine, or maybe I don't know, US or the NATO in general, or Europe decide to even support them with military, they could attack back, and Russia has the strongest army in the world. This we don't have to forget, right? they might not be the most wealthy country to live in. And besides all the economic dependencies that Europe has and any other country has, Russia is the strongest army in the war. So if they want, they can, actually, if Putin wants, he can kill the whole mankind within months. And this is actually what concerns me most every day I get up. I'm thinking, the war in Ukraine is really bad. Is not, unfortunately, is not the first one. It won't be the last that, hopefully will be the last that at least Putin causes, but who knows. But what really concerns me most is that now we are so close in the escalation process, there's just a wrong move could mean the destruction of the planet. And yeah, I put actually a link in the description below. It's the first link if you want to have a look. It is a talk given on TED just 4 years ago when there was no war about Ukraine. So it's not influenced by what we are saying today and what we are seeing today. And there you see what would it mean a nuclear war, not even between Russia and the NATO, but just a smaller one between, let's say, India and Pakistan, that both have nuclear powers, and just a small nuclear war between the two of them may cause actually, yeah, that you, myself, and everyone else on this planet dies. So I'm not sure, how familiar you are with all of that and the risk of the nuclear war, but have a look at that video. If you're not inform yourself. And that's why I think, and actually this is really why I decided, Sigi, to make a move and take a clear position also with Nannuoshan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly not worth risking the extinction of mankind over this.
Yeah, it is. And Maria is writing the reactor were stopped. Maria, it's not that easy. You cannot stop a reactor. There are 6 reactors, I think, there, but you cannot stop a reactor like that overnight. You have to bring it back into a stable condition. This is not something that you can bring it very fast. And on top of that, although the reactor is well protected, you never know, if even if it is deactivated, let's say, and a bomb explodes on top of it, that doesn't mean that you don't have this dissipation of radiation, actually. So it's really not that straightforward. And I said, it's not so much a damage at a nuclear plant that I am afraid of, although that would be really bad, by the way. So, but way worse than Chernobyl. But is what this could cause. And if there is an escalation and a nuclear war starts, it's really not a matter of exploding a nuclear plant. I think in that video, it was mentioned that Russia has so many nuclear bombs. And by the way, each of them, you can say it's kind of multiple times one Hiroshima bomb. So it's really, they're much more powerful than in the Second World War. We have to consider in the Second World War, we were not even able to go to space. Yeah, we have not to the moon, but even not to space. So the technology have changed over time. Now we are actually looking to go to Mars. Same story. There was no satellites, nothing at that time. So the technology, also the nuclear technology, was not where it is today. But anyway, Russia has so many nuclear bombs that they could hit every city in Europe and in the US with more than 100,000 people with 10 nuclear bombs each. So this just to give a feeling. Think about which is the next city close to you with more than 100,000 people. There, Russia has the power of hit with 10 nuclear bombs, each of them probably 10 times the power of Hiroshima bomb. So it's like they can, and you don't have, you have to hope, and at least for me, if a nuclear bomb, I'm not thinking about you, but if a nuclear bomb war starts, I really hope that a nuclear bomb just land here out of this window, because then at the end, then I die
It
very
ends
quickly and
quickly.
that's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. It's
Because it can be, it can be a very suffering and long end die when there is
yeah.
no more crop around the world, the sky is dark, and
Radiation
and you
sickness
just die
is.
out because of famine.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess like if you somehow survive the initial wave of radiation, then it might be even more miserable. But radiation too is a horrible and painful way to die.
Yeah, no, that's and Maria is writing that Putin already asked EU and NATO not to provide military power. That's what he did, but I think what happened is actually, but that's just really my view. I don't know, but that NATO reacted really fast, sending over army even before maybe Putin was thinking about it. I don't know, and army were already there. So now he can really, he cannot really stop it in a way. He cannot avoid it, let's say, because army from the Europe and the US are already in Ukraine. So what is now, I think, he's trying to leverage on what NATO has not done yet. So when he saw there is a risk of a no-flight zone, he said, if you put a no-flight zone, it's like attacking me. And attacking me, by the way, means Third World War, because he made it very clear that if there is a war between Russia and the West, it will be a nuclear war. And of course, if he sends the nuclear weapon over, I think the most likely reaction that those other the countries of NATO that have nuclear power will be just to hit back in the same way. Also surrender, yeah. And this is a bit scary. To me, it's also scary the fact that, of course, we know China would, in such a situation, would support Russia and certainly not US and Europe. And what is even more worrying, and this is something that honestly I was not expecting just because I'm not enough well informed, is that I mean, at this point, there is the risk that even India would back up Russia. And if there is the Third World War and both China and India are supporting Russia, we have already that half of the world is actually against Europe and the US. So just speaking about the number of people, it's overwhelming because, yeah, the NATO is less than 1 billion people for sure. And maybe, I don't know, my estimate would be 600,000, 600 million people. So there would be already an unbalance, and India depends on Russia even more than Europe. In Europe, we really depend very heavily because of gas and oil, but India has 50% of their arms and defense infrastructure come from Russia.
Isn't it also natural resources? If I remember correctly, Russia is one of the main suppliers for raw materials for semiconductors.
Yeah, that as well. That as well. Yeah, that's true. In the very north of Russia, there are also, I don't remember right now the materials, but yeah, they have mines there. But that's also why, by the way, I mean, for Europe, not so much for US, but certainly for Europe, it would be really difficult to take measures that would hit Russian economy, affecting oil and gas, because it would be the other way around. Like if Europe say, okay, we don't buy gas and oil anymore, the country that suffered the most is Europe, not Russia. Because I don't know, China and India are very happy. The prices go down and they buy the stuff from Russia, and we are relying so much on gas and oil from Russia that I don't think we would have even power to run factories in the industry actually.
Possible. That's something I admittedly just don't know much about.
Yeah, but it's massive. I mean, think that nearly 70% of all the gas consumption in Italy is from Russia.
Oh, okay.
70. It's pretty much everything, yeah.
Wow. Um, one one other thing that I haven't seen like much talk about is that this like this war isn't just being fought in like the physical dimension, if you want to call it that way, but there's also a lot going on in terms of cyber attacks and hacking and all of that kind of stuff, which I think is also a threat that shouldn't like be overlooked because um, if you think about how many things are in one way or another connected to the internet, which nowadays in many cases even includes sort of critical operations for a country, like power grids and that kind of stuff. And if these cyber attacks like completely black out a country for even just a couple of days, that would be ruinous.
Yeah, and that would be again another reason for escalation. So every direction I see basically, um, yeah, risk for escalation. Now Maria is writing, for me, Serbia is a shock. Also, Hungary is not allowing military equipment to be shipped through their country, and Turkey is also considering supporting Russia. I mean, the Turkey is considering supporting Russia is the last thing that surprised me. Actually, I mean, they are both um, Erdogan and Putin are close friends, so yeah, it's just is what can you say? It's just bad. And I said what is bad is not really the war in Ukraine. I said I think that Russia is not really using a lot of power. There are a lot of news now saying that Russian plans are not going, or Russian war is not going to plans. That everything is going much slower than what Putin. I don't know. To me, and I say this speculative because I don't know, of course, but to me it is a little bit of a false hope. Like the Russian has so much military power, and if they want, they just I'm not saying that they take Ukraine overnight, but close to that. It's just that they are using just a small amount of it, and I think they are going in a way a little bit careful, yeah, and they will just push more and more and more the more resistance they find. So on the other,
Mhm.
on one side, they say one side of me say, okay, good, we should give arms and fighter jet, assuming they can actually they have the pilot for those. That's a different story, but we can give those to Ukraine so we can support them. But on the other side, honestly speaking, I think that the chances of Ukraine to really push back Russia are not that high. I'm not saying that it cannot happen, but I don't think they're very high. And the risk that I see is that if we make this war longer, more people will die. There is more risk for escalation. There is more risk that someone makes the wrong step and a third world war starts. And maybe at the end, the conclusion will be the same. Hopefully, the only thing, at least by putting more resistance, is that maybe Putin thinks twice before doing the next step. But he's completely crazy, so is quite old also. Maybe he's also already thinking about, what he wants to leave, um, how he wants to be remembered. I don't know.
Maybe, but
Yeah,
it's not going to be a good remembrance, at least for most parts of the world.
yeah, and in converting energy resources in Europe to become more independent for Russia is not something that you can do overnight. It's just Maria was writing about the big gas resource in the Black Sea that Romania has. But on the other side, how long does it take to use that resource, right? Here we have to find a short-term solution. We're already working in a long-term solution, right? The conversion to electric energy, but this takes decades, not months.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it does show, I think, some political failings to some extent that we are now so almost like dependent on Russia for these resources.
Yeah, yeah, which is fairly bad. But on the other side, we have to admit that our wealth in Europe is also because of that, just because we use those
Yeah.
resources, right? And it's a difficult situation with a lot of tension. I certainly don't envy the top politician of each state at the moment and the crucial decision they have to take. Very difficult. Let's hope that they take the best one. And I said, I know that not everyone can have the same opinion, and that's why we are here and we are open. And I think I shared, which is my opinion on the topic. And if you concur with that and you agree with that, then support our initiative of boycotting Russia in both ways. Do not buy, not to buy Russian products, and also not to sell to Russia. And I say that's my hope, to wake up Russia. And as was written before, maybe we don't get 140 million people on the roads, but a large number enough to heavily protest against Putin, put that under out of control, and have someone else then continuing to yeah to take the lead on Russia. Yeah, it has been 21 years already of Putin, and I think that's more than enough.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
How is your taste, Iggy?
I was just about to ask you the same thing. My tea was good. This one is, I'd say, on the heavier stored side of things, but it's a very pleasant drink. It's
heavy, you said?
Yeah, heavier stored. It's got a really pleasant and smooth texture, and the flavors also kind of combine nicely. It doesn't taste off in any way, which is nice. Though I do have to say, I think with these teas, sort of breaking them up and storing them in kind of smaller chunks makes sense to get some of that aroma out more easily, and also to kind of create more balanced sessions, because I feel, especially with these sort of admittedly somewhat lower end teas, the blends you get can be a bit more uneven. And with traditional storage in particular, there's often a fairly significant difference between what it tastes like on the outside of the tea and on the inside. And breaking it up into smaller pieces also provides a more balanced session in that way. But overall, this tea was quite affordable, luckily, and I enjoyed quite a lot. So I'll likely end up getting more of it at some point.
Nice.
How was yours? It was actually really interesting. I kind of watched the color of your tea develop during the session, and at the start, I was almost questioning whether it actually is a shoe, because it looked like yellow essentially.
It's
But then
no, well, I'm not through the camera, maybe because the light are very strong. It is it's a shoe.
Now it definitely looks like shoe.
At the beginning, it was much faster, and the leaves were still packed together. I mean, it's difficult really to show those to you without everything going onto my laptop. But yeah, I will check the price, because right now I don't remember. But if I'm right, it wasn't too expensive, and it's very nice because, as you have seen, I forgot it in the Gaiwan quite a few times, and none of that was overwhelming. So it's really very smooth and very clean in taste in a way. So I think that aging really smoothed it down, but it seems it's fairly dry, so there is no fishy notes, no, I don't know, malty note or mushrooms and so on. Very, very, yeah, I like it. Just a very nice, soft and velvety, I would say, shoe.
Now, I can't really speak from personal experience, because I don't think I've ever had shoe from that era, but from what I've heard, is also that it's not just like the time it's had to air out, but also the processing method that was used at that time tends to produce something that gives a much lighter impression in terms of like fermentation level and everything.
Now that you say, I want to pull up here my database and check if I have more information about this tea. Here we are. So this one, oh well, it's not that cheap, but it's okay. I was hoping for a better price actually, yeah. But nonetheless, I think it's okay. It would be probably, it would be like, I don't know, it's close to 30 euros per 50 gram. Maybe not up there because it's coming 250. So yeah, maybe for the 250 gram would be almost 100 euros probably. So it's not that cheap, yeah.
It's not too bad though for a 90s tea.
Yeah, that's to be considered. And besides that, I don't have a lot of information, yeah. And I said it's a 1 p.m. shoe, so it's kind of something new. Anyway, yeah. Can you repeat, please, what tea is this? Now, this was Maria asking. I don't know if she's asking about yours or mine, but you said yours was a Shang from the 90s, right?
Yeah, a Zhongcha Jiaji grade Tuo Hong Kong stored from the 90s. That's all I really know about it.
Yeah, now Susie is asking, I mean, going back to Russia, she's asking if the population insurge against Putin, what would happen? So what would be, wouldn't this cause a revolution? Yeah, probably yes. What would come after Putin? And what do you think would happen? Well, I have to say that most probably I'm not really the best person to answer that questions. Like I don't have the knowledge, even the knowledge background to to even argue so much, argument so much about that, just because my background is more scientific than historical. But I can just tell maybe what is my hope, yeah, without pretending that this is the most likely outcome. Because she was saying the last time we had a revolution, we ended up with the Soviet Union. So it's true on one side that history repeats, but on the other side, I hope that we are in a more globalized war in a positive way, in more international world. We have other means of communicating with each other than in the past. And also every corner of the war is more aware of what is happening on the other side, right? So I think that, and actually this is something I'm sure about. I mean, most Russia, when you speak to them, they look a little bit at US and Europe with a little bit, they envy it in a way, they envy us in a way, just because they see that our standards are a little bit better. They notice it, they see movies, and they see also when we go there and they host us, have an exchange with us, right? And if we show, I showed them even, picture of my house, is which is nothing fancy, but would be far away from whichever average level you would find in Russia, for example. So my hope is that they would realize that it's not only a matter of changing, but that living in a liberal and democratic world is really worth doing. And I'm not saying that it's easy and that it will end up in that way, but that's my hope. And I don't know. What can we do? One step at a time. Let's first try to get rid of Putin. We have to do it anyway, even if we are afraid of what would come up next.
Yeah, I think realistically speaking, it's impossible to know what's going to happen afterwards. Obviously, I also don't know enough about things in Russia to know whether there are any sort of unified movements or anything like that that would seize power if Putin were to be gone, or if there would simply kind of be new elections and presidential candidates and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
s-
it
let's
is.
see.
It's a difficult situation, I think. To me, in one sentence, what I think we should try to do is to make everything we can to avoid further escalation. That's my one sentence message, if you want. Yeah, all the rest is also things we have to look at. Yeah, so look at the links in the description, how to support the refugee. If you have some links and some ideas about how to support the refugees, or anyway whatever we can do also for the people that are in Ukraine and are not able to get out of there, please post it in the comments below. But my message today and Nannuoshan's message today is let's do everything we can to stop Putin and to avoid further escalation, which are two contradicting things, by the way, because stopping him might cause actually an escalation.
Yeah, and that's how it often is. There isn't going to be a simple solution to this, and as I've
It
pointed
is.
out a couple of times, what we as individuals can do is very limited. So let's focus those individual resources on providing help to those that need it in these times. Try to see what all of you can do to that end.
Yeah, and I see that Susie is also writing, I just wonder if isolation is the real way to push for that. I mean, but yeah, Susie, I don't know, honestly. I mean, if we would know, we would just go, everyone would go for it, right? So I think that is everyone's feeling and own judgment if the way to go is isolating Russia or not. My take on it and my personal position is yes, that's what I believe. I believe that although I'm not so convinced about it will work out, but I think it's worth a try. We have to make to do everything we can to make the Russian aware that they are not supported, and that at least from the eyes outside of Russia, we don't see the current action as justified. And if that will work out, I don't know, honestly. But yeah, it's. I think.
Yeah,
I think there is more to lose not to trying than just to trying it. Yeah.
yeah, and it's it's one of the few things that we can do, or like in this current political environment, sort of economic repercussions are one of the few tools that are realistically available
Yeah.
in situations like these.
Yeah. Yeah. But what can we do? I mean, finger crossed. And yeah, it's really, it's even difficult to speak much because we really don't know what can happen, right? But
Yeah, there's
let's keep us informed. And if you have opportunities to really support the refugees or support those that remain in the country, please do so. Even even just being in contact with them and sending over a message can be a
yeah,
little help.
like
Yeah.
I I think that's a very good thing to say too. Like it doesn't always have to be money or things or stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
just let them know that um, that you support them and you care about them as people, that they have a place in the world and that they are important.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. All right, Sigi. I think yeah, we have given our message here, and we had also some discussion in the chat. So thank you for that, and let's keep in touch. Maybe we can have some more discussion in another date. And by the way, joining this type of calls, you can actually do it not only in the chat, you could even join a video call with us in the same way as you would join a normal Skype call, FaceTime, you call it. And if you're interested, in participating to our video, to our live streaming, it doesn't matter if it is about tea or it is about what is happening around us in the world. Just let us know in the comments below or get in touch with us, info@nannuoshan.org. And we like to be close to all our customers and followers as much as we can. And if you would like to join us on this side of the screen, you are definitely welcome. Yeah. So Siggy, say that. Thank to you for joining me in this discussion, and I would say thank you to everyone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for watching, for chatting, for hanging out. Thanks for giving your opinions. And once again, I urge you to provide support wherever you can.
Same from here. And we will see you at the next video. Bye, guys.
Goodbye.